Okay, today we're going to dive into India's incredibly complex world of buying fighter jets. But here's the twist. This isn't a defense analysis. We're looking at it as a masterclass in high-stakes procurement. It's all about strategy, leverage, and really how a massive buyer can flip the script in a market where it seems like they should have no power at all.
So that brings us to the big question, right? How do you win a negotiation when you desperately need something, but maybe only a handful of companies on the entire planet can make it? And, oh yeah, the price tag has at least 9 zeros. It really feels like you're backed into a corner. But as we're about to see, that's not always how it has to play out.
So let's set the stage here. We're looking at what seems like an impossible negotiation. This isn't your typical corporate purchasing deal. You can think of it more like a strategic battlefield where the old rules just don't apply. You need a completely different playbook to even survive, let alone win.
And here's why it's so tough. I mean, look at this. You've got very few qualified suppliers to begin with. Once you pick one, the cost to switch to another is just astronomical. And these contracts, they're not for a year or two. We're talking decades. You're basically buying into a 30-year relationship. A lot of the time, getting access to the technology is actually worth more than the jet itself. It is the absolute definition of a high-risk game where you have very few, if any, alternatives.
So how in the world do you fight back against that? Well, India's strategy can really be broken down into 4 key moves. These are specific plays designed to fundamentally shift the balance of power and turn the tables back in their favor.
All right, move number 1. It's a classic, but the execution here is just brilliant. Create competition, even when it feels like there's none. In a market with just a handful of players, you can generate some serious leverage just by making them compete with each other. And India put this idea into practice with a massive program.
This is how they did it. It was called the MRCA program. First, they invited bids from pretty much everyone who was anyone in the fighter jet world. Then, and this is key, they evaluated the technical side completely separately from the price. But the real genius move, they used time as a weapon. If the terms weren't right, they just waited. They delayed decisions. This kept every single supplier on edge because nobody felt like they had the deal in the bag.
And that whole strategy boils down to this one crucial concept right here. Optionality. It's the big idea behind the first move. See, the power doesn't come from haggling for a lower price, it comes from having real, credible alternatives. By just keeping its options open, India avoided getting locked into one supplier and basically created its own leverage out of thin air.
Now for the second play, which builds on the first. If you can't win on the sticker price, then you change what price even means. Instead of getting bogged down in the initial cost, you shift the entire negotiation to the total cost over the aircraft's whole life. And the Rafale deal is the perfect example of this.
This chart just lays it out perfectly. The traditional way of thinking, lowest unit price, gets tossed right out the window. The new strategic focus is on things like assured capability. Basically, will this jet actually be ready to fly when we need it? It's about long-term reliability, performance guarantees, and even getting customizations that are specific to India. They weren't just buying a product, they were negotiating for a guaranteed capability that would last for decades.
This third move, this might be the biggest mind shift of them all. It's about going from being just another customer to becoming a true strategic partner. You don't just want to buy their product, you want to own the capability to build it, to maintain it, and to upgrade it yourself. The Su-30 MKI deal with Russia is the textbook example of this in action.
I mean, just look at this progression. It starts with simple dependency, right? Importing the finished jets. But the real negotiation, the game changer, is step 2, technology transfer. Getting the blueprints, the knowledge. From there, you get to licensed production, actually building the planes in your own country. And that leads to the ultimate prize, long-term control over everything. You've completely broken that cycle of dependency.
Okay, so what if you're facing a true monopoly? When there's only one supplier and they hold all the cards? That was the case with upgrades for the older Mirage 2000 fleet. Well, if you can't negotiate on the price, you negotiate on the rules of the game itself.
So instead of arguing about cost, you negotiate for control. You break up the deal into phased contracts, so you're not locked into one huge risky agreement. You make knowledge transfer a mandatory part of the deal. You define exactly what needs to be done with incredible precision. The whole goal is to chip away at the supplier's power by slowly building up your own expertise over time.
Now, these 4 moves are all really powerful on their own, but they're all supercharged by one ultimate power play, the one move that sits behind everything else and permanently changes the entire game.
So what do you think that is? What's the one thing a buyer can do that gives them the ultimate trump card in every negotiation from that point on?
There it is. The most powerful move you can make is to build your own. For India, this is their homegrown Tejas fighter program. By investing in and developing your own domestic capability, you create a real, credible alternative that massively reduces your dependency on foreign suppliers for every single deal in the future.
And in the world of negotiation theory, this has a name. It's called your BATNA, your best alternative to a negotiated agreement. It's a fancy way of asking, what's your plan B if you walk away from the table? Having a strong BATNA is the ultimate source of power. And by building the Tejas, India has been building the strongest BATNA it possibly can.
So, what does all this high-level military strategy mean for the rest of us? Well, let's take this playbook and distill it down into something that you can apply to almost any major negotiation you'll ever face.
Here it is, your strategic playbook in 4 clear steps. Number 1, create optionality. Always have choices. 2, define value broadly. Stop focusing on just the sticker price and look at the total capability. 3, own the capability. Go after the knowledge, not just the product. And number 4, the big one, build your BATNA. Your real power comes from your ability to walk away from the deal and be perfectly fine.
This quote just sums it all up, doesn't it? Success in these huge deals isn't about who's the toughest or who shouts the loudest at the table. It comes from the quiet, strategic work you do long before you even get there, being patient, creating options, and aiming to own the capability. So, the next time you're heading into a big deal, ask yourself this question. Are you just buying a product to solve today's problem, or are you making strategic moves that will build your power and give you leverage for every single deal that comes after it? It's something to think about.